There are a plentiful amount of questions surrounding this Florida Gator program, not only about the coaching staff, about the roster itself, and they have to go through one of, if not the toughest schedules in America in 2024. There are questions about how the program itself is run and the culture and everything else surrounding the Florida Gators. Well, they're going to look to prove in 2024 that all of that is just talk. Can the Florida Gators make it to a bowl game and potentially be a sleeper SEC team in 2024? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to prediction season. It's where I predict all 134 FBS level college football teams this summer. We're in the 30s now. Can you believe that? Hey, if you want to hear what I have to say about your favorite team, because I'm doing your favorite team, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. Thank you so much for watching this video and all my other videos as well. It helps support the channel in more ways than you can even imagine. And if you'd like to continue to support what I do here on YouTube, please like, comment, share. Again, watch my other videos. Obviously, subscribe. Anything you do to interact with the channel helps to support it, and it does mean a lot to me. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I gave you the Florida Gators in 2024, but I got to tell you how we're going to talk about them in this video. We're going to take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and at the end of the day, we'll give the Florida Gator football schedule a good old game-by-game preview and prediction. That sounds good to me. A couple more things before we start. Right over here are going to be the stats the team either offensively or defensively put up last season. And for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. So with no further delay, we'll talk about the Florida Gators in 2024. I do have to give you an asterisk about their coaching staff really quickly. They don't have one true offensive coordinator. Probably lean more towards Rob Sale than Russ Callaway, as they're both co-offensive coordinators technically. And Ryan O'Hara, who has the asterisk next to him in the quarterback position, is technically an analyst, but to my knowledge is the closest thing that the Gators have to a quarterback coach. If any of that is incorrect, please leave it in the comment section down below. But let's talk about the Florida offense in 2024. Got to talk about the most important position on the field first, and that's the quarterback room. Max Brown is leaving through the transfer portal. 192 yards, no touchdowns, did throw one interception on 67% completion percentage, only threw 28 passes last season. So your starter from last season does come back, and that is Graham Mertz. And for all the hate and all the questions and criticisms that he got during his playing time in Madison, he was a pretty darn good quarterback for the Florida Gators last season. 2,903 yards with 20 touchdowns, and yes, had a lot of turnover problems in Madison. Only threw 3 picks last season. Now, does have a lot of talent leaving this room, but I have a feeling that he's going to put up a similar stat line this year and is going to lead this Florida offense to really do some pretty darn good things here in 2024. Now, the problem was that he was sacked 31 times. So the offensive line is going to have to get better. Don't worry, we will talk about that when we get there. But you are getting some other talent into this room through the transfer portal and through recruiting as well. Clay Millen is over from Colorado State from the portal, and DJ Lagway is a very high-profile freshman that enters this program. According to 24/7 Sports, DJ Lagway is the number 3 overall player nationally, the number 1 overall quarterback in the class of 2024, and is a full bona fide 5-star caliber player. If Graham Mertz ends up struggling, we might be able to see DJ Lagway this season. But it is Graham Mertz's team as of right now. He is going to end up being that starter, and I would still have good confidence in Graham Mertz. Yes, there were questions about him coming out of Madison last season, but those questions have been answered. His turnover problems seem to be, for the most part, gone, and he will lead this Florida offense more than likely all the way through 2024. Got to talk about his skill position room. You lose quite the weapon in Trevor Etienne. 753 yards and 8 touchdowns last season. One of the best running backs talent-wise in the SEC is gone over to another SEC team and Florida's rival in the Georgia Bulldogs. You also do lose Carlson Joseph as well. Had 3 carries last year, but again, more of a depth piece than anything. So who comes back? Well, Trevor Etienne was not your leading rusher. It was Montrell Johnson. 817 yards and 15 touchdowns on 152 carries. Slightly lower yards per carry average than Etienne, but still a good running back nonetheless. And you do get Trayon Webb back and Jaden Ball, a freshman coming into this program that could provide some big minutes through his running back duties. And taking a look at where he was recruited at here, 3-star player, not rated nationally by 24/7. was the 32nd overall rated running back in the class of 2024. There was a higher rated running back that was brought into the class, but Ball expected to play a little bit of a bigger role, at least from everything that I have seen. You did lose your top target in Ricky Pearsall to the NFL, 65 catches for 965 yards and 14.8 yards per catch, and pretty much in all players that had at least 10 carries, or not 10 carries, 10 catches. That led the team. Did also have 4 touchdowns on the season as well. You do lose another player through the transfer portal in Caleb Douglas. He had over 100 yards last season. And then you do lose Chiokayo Bowman. I definitely butchered that name, so I apologize for that. But didn't really play a big role last year. Had been a pretty big piece to Florida's offense a couple seasons ago, but he has left through the transfer portal, as has a tight end in Jonathan Odom. He had 9 catches a season ago. So what comes back in this wide receiver room? Well, Eugene Wilson, Khalil Jackson, and Marcus Burke are all going to be coming back here. Wilson, the leading receiver among those, 538 yards and 6 touchdowns. And besides Pearsall, the only guy to get 500 yards in this wide receiver room a season ago. But you do bring in some freshmen that, hey, could prove to be really big pieces to this offense. Chimere DK is coming over from Wisconsin, pretty underrated player in my opinion. He was one of the leading receivers during his time in Madison. And Elijah Badger comes over from Arizona State. You do get a freshman in Tank Hawkins, and in your tight end room, Arliss Boardingham, your leading receivers among tight ends last year, comes back. Hayden Hanson, Tony Livingston, Zion Zipperer will all return, as well as you do get Caleb Rios coming over from Air Force through the transfer portal. And with Kingsley Uguakin gone to the NFL, Micah Masqua and Richie Leonard off through the transfer portal, your offensive line is going to be a mix of returners as well as some transfers. Austin Barber, Jake Slaughter, Damian George Jr., Kanijah Harris, and Cameron Waits all come back to this team, while Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, Devon Moel, I'm pretty sure that's Manuel. Yes, it is Manuel. There should be an N in there. I'll fix that in a second. And Jason Zandamela all come in through the transfer portal. All right, so there's the fixed spelling of Manuel. So now let's talk overall about this Florida offense here in 2024 for just a little bit. Graham Mertz has to continue his play from last season, and who knows, you may even get 3,000 yards out of him this season. He was only 100 yards or so off of doing it from last year. And yes, you do have to replace Trevor Etienne, but you still have Montrell Johnson. You need someone to step up in place of Ricky Pearsall. Probably going to end up being Eugene Wilson. Who knows how these transfers and freshmen are going to be fitting into this offensive system. But it's up to Graham Mertz to continue his play from last year, and this offensive line has got to get better. If the offensive line doesn't get better, well, Graham Mertz can't be as dangerous as he wants to be. This offense can't be as dangerous as it can be, and it definitely can lead to some downfall for the Florida Gators. So now let's talk about the defense for Florida here in 2024. They did lose some pretty solid pieces off a defense that, well, had their moments last year, but overall, you see the stats right over there, was certainly not fantastic. Princely Uman Mielen, Chris McClellan, and Will Norman all leave this team through the transfer portal. Uman Mielen, one of the most talented defensive linemen in the transfer portal class, is going off to join Lane Kiffin. He had 39 tackles with 7 sacks. That led the Gators last season. Chris McClellan is also gone. Pretty solid player in his own right, 23 tackles a season ago. Will Norman, to my knowledge, more of a depth guy. Yes, only had 1 tackle this past season. So who comes back to this defensive line room? Well, you do get Cam Jackson back, as well as Caleb Banks, TJ Searcy, Tyreek Sapp, and Justice Boone, as well as you get someone over from the transfer portal in Joey Slackman. He's coming over from UPenn, the Ivy League school. And then LJ McCray is a freshman entering this defensive line room. That, well, hey, who knows? We could see him play some pretty big minutes here as well. The number 4 overall player in the class of 2024. In fact, he probably will play big minutes. He should be a high impact player on Florida's defensive line. Linebacker room does lose Terada Mitchell, the former Ohio State transfer, is gone due to graduation, and Scooby Williams and Manny Naneri are both gone through the transfer portal. So you lose some really talented players in your linebacker room there. Naneri, 28 tackles. Scooby Williams was your 3rd leading tackler last year with 52 of them. Terada Mitchell definitely had some pretty good moments with this program, 23 tackles for him a season ago. So a lot of production gone out of this linebacker room. You do get Shamar James back, was your 2nd leading tackler last year with 55 tackles and 1 sack. You also do get Danny Wingo back, but a lot of guys through the transfer portal, and Grayson Howard and some highly touted freshmen as well. Miles Graham and Aaron Childs both come in through the recruiting class. Your defensive back room does lose a lot of talent through the portal, as well as Jaden Hill is gone, the fourth leading tackler out of the cornerback room. 39 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 passes defended a season ago. Jalen Kimber and Jadarius Perkins, some pretty talented players that leave as well as in your safety room, Miguel Mitchell and Kamari Wilson are both going to be gone through the transfer portal as well. Mitchell last season, 37 tackles, 2 passes defended, did have an interception in there as well. So who does come back to the defensive back room? Well, Jason Marshall comes back, had 26 tackles, a sack, but 11 passes defended last year. He'll lead the cornerback room for Florida, along with Jakeem Jackson, Devin Moore, and Dijon Johnson, as well as a very highly touted player from the transfer portal coming in, Cormani McClain, the former Miami commit that ended up switching to go over to Colorado. Had himself a pretty decent season last year, but now coming over to Florida, will step up and play big minutes in this quarterback room, not a doubt in my mind. And Jameer Grimsley comes in through the transfer portal as well. Jordan Castell, your leading tackler from a season ago, will be coming back to the safety room, as well as Bryce Thornton and Sharif Denson, and you do get a lot of talent from the portal as well. Asa Turner comes over from Washington. Trikwezi Bridges is in, as well as DJ Douglas. They are both entering through the transfer portal as well. Bridges is a guy that could play corner, could play safety, ended up putting him in the safety slot here. That's where he was listed on the depth chart according to ourlads.com, and more of a safety type role. He is an Oregon transfer, and DJ Douglas comes over from Tulane. And kickers are people too. Let's show them some love. Adam Mihalik has gone through the transfer portal. He was a place kicker, but you still get Jeremy Crenshaw, your punter, back, as well as another place kicker in Trey Smack that should have primary kicking duties for the Gators in 2024. Talking about this defense as a whole, it, again, definitely had some pretty good moments last year. Did force 22 tackles, but it only not 22 tackles, 22 sacks, my apologies. Only 7 turnovers. They've got to start forcing more turnovers here and help swing some momentum the other way, especially with how difficult this schedule is. The Florida defense has to be on point, but it leads me to talking about this schedule, and it is one of the toughest schedules in the country, as you can clearly see. Any game at home is going to be underlined. Well, any game on the road is in italics. That's that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Gators are going to win easily. Spoiler alert, there's not going to be very many of them. Any game in yellow is going to be a game that, okay, the Gators are going to hang around, the other team's going to hang around, but ultimately it will be the Gators that pull away, and red is a loss. So with no further delay, we will go ahead and predict Florida's schedule in 2024. And the Gator fans, just a warning, I don't know if you're going to like what I have to say, but let's hear what I have to say nonetheless. First game at home against the Miami Hurricanes. Okay, absolutely a winnable game for this Florida Gators team, but I love Miami's team here in 2024. Now, it can't be arguable that Mario Cristobal in seasons past has cost this team at least one game during the season. He did that at Oregon. He did that last year at Miami. We all remember the Georgia Tech game. I don't think it's going to be this game right here. Miami's got a lot of talented transfers and some very talented pieces coming back. The defense loaded up through the portal, and when you talk about the offense, Cam Ward, who's a very talented quarterback, comes over from Washington State. Damian Martinez over from the Oregon State Beavers. You have Xavier Restrepo, who was a 1,000-yard receiver last year. He comes back, and ultimately, I think Miami's got the more talented team here. Florida lost a lot through the portal. I think it'll take some time for especially some of these high-impact freshmen to really find their role, and I got Florida losing a close one at home to the Miami Hurricanes. Very talented team, and again, whatever team loses that game, I think it's going to be kind of an MO for their season. Nonetheless, Florida should be able to beat Samford in week 2. Yes, we all know what happened the last time they played Samford. It was the infamous, 56-42 game or something like that, where Florida's defense couldn't stop air. Yeah, but hey, they still should be able to get on track, get their first win of the season against the Samford Bulldogs, an FCS level program, and then you move on to the Texas A&M Aggies. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time for Mike Elko's company to settle in here. Connor Wiegman is supposed to take that next step to be the quarterback. I think it takes to be the quarterback, I'd say to be the quarterback that the Aggies need him to be. There we go. Those are the words that I was looking for, but A&M's got a lot of good talent on that team. This will be a tough one for Florida, but it being in the Swamp instead of in Kyle Field, I do have Florida being able to pull out the very close win here. I think Graham Mertz going to be a little bit too much for some of the new faces on this Texas A&M defense. Yes, while it does have a lot of talent on it, does lose a lot of pieces, especially on the defensive line. And having a good defensive line will be key to make Florida pay for, again, what could be a shaky offensive line. Now, the expectation is that it gets better, which I definitely think it will, but I think Texas A&M lacks the pieces to necessarily exploit Florida, especially on the road. And I got the Gators pulling off of what you probably could consider an upset. I don't consider it one, but you could in week 3. On the road against Mississippi State in Starkville is going to be a tough place to play. Now, I've been on record saying before, and I'll say it again because I truly believe it, I don't think Jeff Lebby was a great hire here for this Mississippi State program. I think you could have gone out and got someone better, and I just don't think the rebuild is going to start out well in Starkville. That being said, the Cowbells are loud. It is a tough place to play. And I think Mississippi State gets at least one SEC game this season, maybe even 2. And I got them winning this one here against the Florida Gators. Now, an upset pick here, sure. I definitely think Florida is the more talented team. But this is college football. The more talented team doesn't always win every single game, and going on the road, especially in the SEC, matters a lot. And I got Florida losing that game on the road to the Mississippi State Bulldogs before they enter their bye week. Florida could easily be 1-3 entering this bye week. I have them at 2-2, and I think they jump above 500 again this season. They were 2-1 earlier in my predictions. Now they're 3-2 after a win against the UCF Knights. But don't count them out. KJ Jefferson is coming in to play quarterback. They got a lot of talented skill position players. Offensively, defensively, this team has some really, really good talent. And again, this is going to be a close one. It's going to have to be a game where both teams are going to want to fight to the end. But I do have the Gators coming out on top at home against the UCF Knights. And I think Graham Mertz going to be able to outduel KJ Jefferson there, although that is going to be a really fun game. On the road in Neyland Stadium, I don't see how the Gators beat Nico Iamaleava and the Tennessee Volunteers. That's going to be a very explosive offense this season, and I don't think Florida has the necessary pieces to be able to slow it down. Sure, the secondary can hang, but I think they're going to find their troubles trying to cover Squirrel White and trying to cover Brew McCoy, and this is a game right here where that seemingly inability to force turnovers last season, I think is going to bite them. Close game on the road, but Tennessee is able to pull out that win. Then you get to come back home and play Kentucky, and what do you know? You jump right back above 500. I think the Kentucky Wildcats here are definitely a team to watch for in the SEC, but I think Florida's going to be able to exploit Kentucky's weakness. I definitely think that with Kentucky losing as many pieces as they did, you lost Devin Leary to the NFL, you lost Ray Davis to the NFL, you lost some very talented pieces, especially in that defensive back 7 through the portal to the NFL. And while there is some good talent coming in, I think Florida makes it tough for Kentucky in the swamp, and the Gators win that one. So now they're at 4 wins. You need 2 more, but this is by far the toughest stretch of the season. You probably want to come into this stretch 5-2. I have you coming in at 4-3. It's going to be very difficult to win even one game, but you do get your second to last bye week before a game in which you're just not going to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. They're one of the most talented teams in the entire country, and I think that bodes bad news bears for Florida. Carson Beck is going to have a phenomenal season, did have a phenomenal season last year, wasn't talked about enough. He'll be talked about this year. Again, Trevor Etienne is on this team now. He'll be a very good piece at running back. The defense is loaded. Florida will not be beating Georgia this season. They are just not talented enough to do it. And I don't think they're talented enough to beat Texas either. Quinn Ewers is back. He's got a loaded wide receiver room, some really good pieces at running back. If Texas can especially fill those gaps at defensive line, you're looking at one of college football's elite teams in 2024. Florida loses on the road to Texas. But I do think they win at least one game in this back stretch, and to me, that is the game against the LSU. Why? I feel like they're the most vulnerable out of teams in that back stretch. Now, you could argue Florida State because of all they lost, sure, but the Tigers still have a lot of question marks on defense. Yes, I know Harold Perkins is still one of the best defensive players in the country. Blake Baker is coming over from the Missouri Tigers to be the defensive coordinator, and they did lose a lot of talent offensively. Is Garrett Nussmeier the real deal? I think he is. He'll have to prove it there, but I think the Gators get at least one. LSU, to me, the most vulnerable, and I don't think they're going to beat the Ole Miss Rebels. Too high octane of an offense, and I don't think Lane Kiffin's squad is going to be defeated by the Florida Gators in 2024. And then you got to go on the road to play the Florida State Seminoles, a game that I don't think you're going to win there either. I really like this Florida State team still, even with all the talent that they did lose. You do have DJU coming in through the portal, a lot of other good players coming in through the transfer portal as well. And I think Florida State's going to find themselves right back in the thick of things in the college football playoff conversation in 2024. So Florida fans, I got you missing out on a bowl game again. Now, could this team make a bowl game? Yes, it wouldn't surprise me at all. The schedule is difficult, and I still have questions about that offensive line and some of that defensive talent that they lost, and just some of the ability to full on replace that talent. Can Florida make a bowl game? Yes. I don't think it'll happen, though. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and we'll talk about West Virginia next. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.